Beneil Dariush came out last night, said he expects to be the backup fighter for Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev. Now, a lot of you on social media said that to me. And you were wise to do so, and I appreciate that, because who's been banging the drum louder than Alex Volkanovski gets that spot? Now, every time I've brought that up, I not only support it, I not only extremely loudly support it, I not only think that Volkanovski made absolute poetry of demanding it, I've also, in the sense of, as Shakespeare would say, fail hello, well met, right? I will throw it to you guys in a jovial sense, and I'll say things like, do you want to be the one to tell Volkanovski he's not going to get that opportunity? I'll lay out Alex's case, and then I'll turn to use it. You want to be the one, tell him he's not going to, when nobody else has asked for it, when nobody else is raising their hand to do it, when they got nobody else over there to do it, and you want to tell the greatest ever who's going to take a massive risk only weeks after hand surgery, no? And of course you don't. Of course you wouldn't want that job, right? If Dana White did a posting, right, you want to work at the UFC, and that was the posting, you got to be the one to call Alex and tell him this. Oh, by the way, you need to convince him. Oh, by the way, then you're going to come to the public and you're going to tell them why a different idea made more sense or was more fair. You're going to wait until HR posts another job. Like, that's just not a gig that you're going to go sign up for. Now, hold on. So Benny comes out of nowhere, and Benny's talking about, I'm going to be the backup. Now, I appreciate that, because I appreciate when Beneil Dariush does anything to speak up and get a headline. I truly and sincerely do. I mean, this is a guy, if there's ever been somebody that puts his head down and goes to practice and just moves forward as a competitor, doesn't play the game, it's Beneil Dariush. Okay. So Benny comes out with this whopper of a lie, just this colossal whopper of a lie that he drops on all of our lap. That was last night. This morning rolls around. I find out Benny's on the card. Now, I know that Benny's getting ready to fight Gamrot. I'm well aware of that. But this card, guys, we've been talking about this card for 2 years. I swear to goodness, it feels like there has never been a card that's as far out as this one. We have literally been discussing, I realize it's only been a couple of months. I realize that it's in line, but guys, we've been talking about the main events. This is a masterful card that they're bringing. Now, I knew that Benny was going to fight Gamrot. I did know that. I just didn't realize that it was on this card. That changes everything. What I just called a whopper of a lie that Benny said on us. Whoa, hold on a second. The history of the UFC, right? Everything's got to be in line. What's good for one has to be good for others. Or then we start talking about injustice and we start talking about what's unfair. Now, even though we realize that we're going to fiercely adhere to the rules that we make up on the spot, we still do like to delve our foot into our childhood when fairness actually mattered. If your brother got 2 cookies and you only got 1, you got a problem in the house. Not to mention, I'm on your side of it. Your brother should not have 2 cookies and you only get 1. In all fairness, that's garbage. Got to have some kind of fairness. Now, history of the UFC says, if your main event falls apart, somebody else who was already in a feature match on the card at the same weight class, and this is very obvious to you guys. You guys see this, but I'll tell you what, it took 2-3 years before the world caught on to Dana's move here. Dana had been doing that, and Dana had been saving cards for years, but he never told him. I mean, he did it right in front of your face, but he never flat out said the words, and you guys didn't catch on. Our media did not catch on that when Dana kept saving cards from 2005, 2009, 2014, when he was doing that, he would do it within the whole card. He wouldn't have to call somebody else. And the way that he did that is he would feature the very weight class that was in the main event. If you've got heavyweights in your main events, you will put a heavyweight fight on your main card that you're featuring, that you're doing packages for, that you're doing the extra marketing, you're doing the extra media, in case you got to grab one of those guys. He's already been promised, and you already shined him up. As simple as that might sound, it was one of the many pieces of the recipe that Dana did for sustainability. Now, if Benny I can't imagine telling Volkanovski no in this situation. I can't imagine doing anything other than praising Alex Volkanovski, because he is not bluffing. He is not joking. He wants that spot. But if you are going to follow history and you need to grab a replacement fighter and you do it from somebody who was already signed to that card, hey, I'll tell you what, your hands are clean. Your hands are clean. And as much as we talked about this card, and as much as I knew that Gamrot and Benny are going to fight, I didn't realize it was that night. Now, why would Benny come out and say, I think I'm going to be the backup fighter? What's he saying about Gamrot? Is he saying he doesn't think Gamrot's going to show up? Is that what he's saying? The hell is he saying? Then Khabib comes out. These are separated by about an hour. Now, this is all in very recent memory, but it's separated by about an hour. Khabib says, I don't think Charles is going to show up. As a matter of fact, I think Benny is going to be fighting Islam, and I think they're going to do it for the belt, which, don't forget, would not be an interim belt. As much as you guys have done your absolute best to confuse yourself, everybody else, and rewrite history, Charles Oliveira is not the world champion. There would be no interim title if Charles doesn't show up. There would be an undisputed title, and it would be between number 2 and number 3. That makes sense. I don't love it. I don't want that card to fall apart. It makes sense. I could explain that to you guys. I could get you to accept that. I could explain that to Alex Volkanovski. I could get him to accept that. Now, the one who has missed the party here, and I assure you when I come and speak to you guys tomorrow, he will still have missed the party here, is Gamrot. For Benny to say that he's pulling out, he's going into the main event, to get backed up by the king himself, king of the weight class is Khabib. The heir apparent to the throne is Islam. I would generally assume, before you guys get ahead of me, before I say, Chael, how are you missing this one? This is just gamesmanship. This is just Khabib's way of making sure Oliveira shows up. The art of the deal. Yeah, I read the book. In all fairness, I understand all of those things. The problem that you have with proposing that to me, if this is a bet, if we're going to go ahead and bet, we've got a crystal ball, we see the future, we can hedge something on this over at DraftKings. Benny doesn't do that. As quickly as you guys put together, all that Khabib is doing is putting pressure on Charles. He's adding to the fight, but he's also putting pressure on Oliveira to make sure that he's there, to make sure that he's on weight, to make sure that he's the last one through the curtain. As much as you think that you've got your timeline off, Benny went first. Benny made the statement first that I believe I'm the backup fighter. I believe I will be in the main event. Benny doesn't do that. It's simple. It's smart. I love it. I'd have handed it to Benny, and I'd have begged Benny to say it. He would have told me no. I mean, I'm just sharing with you. Benny doesn't do that. And it wasn't that Khabib did it, mastermind the whole thing, which I'm sure you could credit right back to Ali. Benny said it first. Khabib came on the back of it. Now, are Benny and Khabib in cahoots? Before you think conspiracies don't happen in MMA, you bet your ass they happen. But they happen right here. They happen with fighters. They happen with managers. The only part that you get wrong when you bring in a conspiracy is thinking that you're involving Dana, Craig, and Hunter's office. No, come on. Dana, Craig, and Hunter aren't. But you're right that there's a conspiracy. You're right that there's strategies. You're right that there's your plans. And you're right that Ali is crafty and smart enough to do this. It'd still be rare that you could get Benny to go along with it. And I will tell you right now, you could telephone, telegraph, or tell a fighter, the word's going to get out. If there's any inkling in the favela that Charles Oliveira is doing his training where everybody's speaking Portuguese, I mean, truly, that far away and in a different language, if there's even an inkling that Charles is thinking about calling in sick, that'll find its way to Dagestan, and that'll find its way to San Jose, and that will find its way to Ali's ears. Make no mistake. So I'm just asking again, is that what's happening? Has a little birdie whispered in Khabib's ears, who went back in a panic to Ali, who set up Benny, Khabib, and himself on a three-way and put this plan together. That is not outside of the realm of possibility. But what are you saying about Gamrot? And the first one speaking up right now should be Gamrot. It should not be me. I should not be coming to the media about Gamrot before Gamrot is in the media. He should have already been here. He won't do it. I assure you, it'll take me about an hour by the time I make this piece, edit it, and load it. Take about an hour. I absolutely 100% guarantee you I'll beat Gamrot to that. Next week, Gamrot still won't have responded. And I'm not sure that Charles will either. And it starts to be very interesting. If any part of that I lost you, if any part of that you missed, if any part of that you don't know why we're sitting here discussing it, guys, rewind and watch this again. The psychology of the piece and the fact that Benny appears to just have positioned himself over the greatest fighter to have ever done it. That in and of itself should spark your curiosity. And if you're not with me here, rewind and rewatch this.